Welcome back to the channel, family. It's been a little while since I've recorded one of these videos, and I think it felt fitting today for me to speak on keeping up with the practices. Yeah, in tone with just that, with the fact that I haven't done one of these videos in a while. I know how it positively benefits my life, and how I'm always bringing through something that I need to hear, and that there's never really an excuse not to go out for 10 minutes and just bring through information and see what flows. But for whatever reason, it's, you know, it feels like there's a lot that we're trying to stay on top of in this time, that in this current point of the shift that we're all facing collectively, is that, and then again, what I've mentioned in previous videos, that need for priority, and to prioritize that which is of our highest divine nature and value. Yeah, I think it's just a lot, this, obviously, you know, whatever words you want to put it into, but this shift between third and fifth dimension, and however long you choose to claim that being, it does feel like it's quicker than if we have, you know, if for us who have remembered this shift taking place before, either upon this planet or other planets or whatever, it does feel like this time it does feel accelerated. It does feel like there's a lot more that we're cramming into a lot less, if that makes sense, in terms of time. And yeah, and you know, this is acknowledged and signified by the fact that, you know, we can all recognize that it feels like time is accelerating. The time that it takes for lessons to arise and to integrate those said lessons is certainly speeding up, and that's why I feel like I'm just sort of being constantly reminded to in a sense to take it easy, you know, my mind and everything is just, it's just creating this list of, you know, what I need to do and what I should be focusing on and all of this, when ultimately, anytime I actually find a little bit of silence and, you know, spending that time with spirit, I'm quite quickly reminded that all is in alignment, all within divine timing, and just know that we are shining, even though we might have got used to a particular level of brightness. You know, that I think in the past few months everything sort of ramped up and the light just came in so fast, so heavy, and just, you know, cleansing everything in its wake, in its, you know, it's and now it feels like, for me anyway, that's when I'm tuning into the field and, you know, collectively the energies, it feels a lot more with inner work taking place, and yeah, and a lot of a need for that compassion of self once again, because without that safe space and without that, yeah, that nurturing space that we can hold for ourselves, you know, and because ultimately I feel like a big part of this shift is how we're ascending, the ego is ascending this time, and how the inner child is ascending this time around. And how we've chosen that to be part of this play, you know what I mean? And I think it's ever important. I keep just getting these little reminders, you know what I mean? Anytime that I'm getting aggy with my ego or whatever, that just that gentle whisper from spirit is all about tools, and it's all about how we use it. And I just think it's so useful to consider the fact that, just stop treating your ego as the ego and start treating it as the inner child, basically. Just see what happens. I'd be kind of curious of, you know, for feedback on this, of how this works for you. But I just think it's so easy to take that harsh tone with the ego, putting it in its place, and ultimately I think it's a bit of a scapegoat, if you know what I mean, ultimately, because it just gives me, oh, I'm ringing in my ear now. It's it's just easy, innit, to go, oh, that's just my ego. And I think, you know, it's useful to use that tool in the sense of being claiming the awareness. This action felt like, you know, it was coming from my ego. But to berate it and just blame it, you know what I mean, is obviously completely pointless. Well, I suppose the point would be is that we're not willing to look at ourselves on a deeper level and take responsibility for the fact that, although that energy came from my ego, that's my ego, and I chose to enact it, you know what I mean? I chose to act upon that thought, feeling, manifestation, you know? So yeah, that feels prominent to me, to mention that. So yeah, a whole lot of self-compassion And just, yeah, and that prioritizing that which is of our highest divine nature and value, because I think that there's a lot of information coming through. I feel like we've probably all had a lot of ideas, you know what I mean, a lot of ideas, and you know, the veil thinning and spirit being closer than ever, and our guides, our, you know, our internal systems being closer than ever. So therefore there's a lot of information that's going to be flowing, and then so for me what keeps coming up is this physical embodiment of these practices, you know, and like choosing where, yeah, when and where to prioritize. Like, I get that there's only so many hours in the day, you know, so it is that balance of like, right, as much as I kind of want to do all these things, I can't fit them all in. So yeah, what's gonna take priority, and what would benefit to take priority now over that, you know, over the other activities, you know, I feel like is yeah, it's definitely been like highlighted to me again. And yeah, and just be honest with ourselves, like what's healing us. I feel like in this time it feels like we're really discovering what like true health is, and what health means to us as individuals, and how, yeah, and how we can actually act upon that, not just you know, watch a bunch of videos and like and know all the information internally, but actually to live that, you know what I mean, to live that, to embody these beliefs. Do you know what I mean? Because ultimately the power of our beliefs is like the power of our manifestation, and all of this is getting stronger as we develop along the path of ascension, you know, and it's going to come to a point where we need to be careful. We need to be careful with the spells that we're casting, because if our awareness is not at the level of our like power, then I think that can just like lead to a bit of a rocky road. But equally, I'm sort of getting a little reminder from spirit that it's like, remember that it's not like with great power comes great responsibility, but of course it's the other way around, and that with that greatest ability to respond is what unlocks the greatest power. Do you know what I mean? It's through our ability to respond alone that signifies power, really, because otherwise what's being brought to you isn't going to make sense. Isn't going to make sense unless we know how to respond to those situations and find a sense within them and navigate and translate, because it can feel a bit alien, I think, sometimes, the way that information is spoken on, or the way that energy sort of just moves in certain flows and certain functions. So therefore, to be able to translate within ourselves, and to be able to detach as well from that specific rigid, you know, meaning that somebody might have been putting forth, and to like remember that we are expansive beings. Do you know what I mean? And we came here to grow, yeah, and to expand, not to contract and remain rigid and closed up. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, non-expansive, yeah, closed up within state of non-expansive thinking. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, we are here to ascend, we're here to rise above, and I know that all of us are going through our trials and tribulations. It don't matter, you know what I mean, it don't matter what your belief system is, we're going through this, yeah, this shift in these tests and initiations. These trials, these tribulations are very much non-avoidable. It's my belief, and yeah, that's backed up within what, you know, the world that I see around me, sort of thing, through my filter, through my perception. So I think it's about that sort of humbling ourselves. I definitely feel like I've had to humble myself. Yeah, definitely feel like I've had to humble myself a lot, you know, and just like sort of take certain things on the chin. And I think a big part of it is like, I think, you know, I kind of struggled a little bit with that whole, like, you know, I'm a sovereign being, I'm the creator of my life, so therefore I bring in abundance, I bring in all things beautiful, and, you know, going along that sort of like methodology of thinking, and then having this sort of like integration within this world, not just within my field, my bubble, but actually living and walking upon this plane, realizing that it's actually like, yeah, you know, the word that's coming to me is sacrifice. Is sacrifice. And I think this is something that I think I'm a little bit, because I hold a bit of resistance to it, because in a way I'm a bit like, I would have believed, say like last year or whatever, I'd have probably heard a bit of a belief of like, there's no need to sacrifice. Like, why would you sacrifice anything? Like, that's not it's just not necessary within thine kingdom, sort of thing. So it's a waste of energy. But I do feel like as part of walking along this 3D plane, you know, that it's growing ever useful to be able to acknowledge those moments where I need to just like sacrifice. And ultimately, I suppose, what am I sacrificing? I think, yeah, for me, it feels like sacrificing that urge of the ego, or that want, that desire of the inner child, you know, and ultimately trusting in God's plan, being the rock in which this statement stands upon. Do you know what I mean? Like, because if we have got true faith in Creator, in that which is self, in that which is I am, that which brings through all that is manifest, you know what I mean? Then there really is there's just no need for this stress. And I think it's like, for me, it feels like there's a lot coming up in these times, and it's all but opportunities. All but opportunities. And the amount of times when I'm in a higher vibe and I'm like, okay, right, so that I know there's loads of tests going on, and then as soon as I'm triggered, like you know what I mean, that, you know, child throwing his toys out the pram, like, do you know what I mean? Just like, yeah, and it's just you know, it's silly and it's immature, and it's also good to laugh at, I think, because anytime that I get serious with it, it's the same thing. Don't just, like, again, in it, just abandon seriousness, cherish sincerity. There's no need for that. It's the same energy, downward spiral energy, like fixed, rigid, you know what I mean, contracted thoughts, which then contracts us as a vessel, do you know what I mean? And we're here to expand, you know what I mean? To, like, yeah, spread those wings. But yeah, it feels good. It feels good to be back in this dynamic. It does feel good to be back in this dynamic, and yeah, I hope everyone's feeling good within themselves, feeling rooted within their path, that they can see, even though we might not know the exact, you know, destination or the exact route in which we'll take. Like, yeah, we know the vibration, we know that, and we know that the path may be narrow, but it's worth walking. Otherwise we wouldn't be walking it. We wouldn't have chosen for the path to be so narrow. We wouldn't have chosen, you know what I mean, everything that requires us, you know what I mean, for it to be narrow, all of the temptations. And yeah, I think that's probably a good way of summarizing it all. It's just those temptations to lower vibration, to earthly pleasures and hedonistic ways, you know what I mean, imbalanced hedonistic ways. Like, we are here to, you know, to be God and feel all things, including pleasure and things like that, do you know what I mean? So it's never about cutting ourselves off, because I think that's then turns into a bit of a punishment of its own, if you know what I mean, which, yeah, to me wouldn't be healthy. And I think that's very much the place where we're all at collectively, is, yeah, what is healthy to me, and yeah, who am I, and just embodying this as best we can. And because for me anyway, it kind of feels like spirit isn't letting us do otherwise, if you know what I mean. Like, yeah, we can resist it, it's free will, like you can resist it if you want, but it's just getting quicker and quicker, these moments of like, there's just no point in resisting. Nah, there's just no point. Like, it just feels backwards, and I think yeah, through holding that compassion with ourselves, truly, it then does unlock us to be able to hold that space for others when they're struggling, just as we're all struggling through this same shift. Do you know what I mean? So I think it's important to remember that we hold within us this seed that contains the power of eternal peace, and that through the nurturing of that seed within ourselves and providing the necessary sustenance, we can grow, we can produce a bountiful harvest, that which, you know, fruits this peace and ripples it within other aspects of our lives, so we can recognize its effect. And this being just the same as when we're interacting with others as well, so we can help bring them that sense of eternal peace. And ultimately, because it's that peace which, you know, unlocks freedom, the freedom to choose, you know what I mean? Because we're centered, we can actually make an informed decision from do you know what I mean? As opposed to being in that fight, flight, and just everything, constant stimulus of information. Do you know what I mean? It's I think for me it feels fair to say we're not making the most of they're not exactly sovereign decisions, because they just can't be, because there's a whole lot of energy within this field whilst I'm making that decision, as opposed to me being sovereign within my field, making that decision, if that makes sense. Do you know what I mean? It's just about being aware of what we're letting in, you know what I mean? And that's why it's so important to, you know, take yourself out into nature and be by yourself, ground, root down deep. Do you know what I mean? And like, just the amount of times that I can spend a lot of time socializing and that, and then as soon as I'm back in my own energy field, and I'm like, whoa, like like, not like I forgot who I am, but do you know what I mean? It's like, I tell you what, it's kind of like, it's exactly like seeing a friend. Do you know how, like, if you haven't seen a friend in a while, and it's like, whoa, like, I forgot what this friend is like, I forgot what this being's like. I have to admit, I find it I find it the same as that, just being by myself, if you know what I mean. And just like taking that time to, like, you know, nurture the vessel, talk to yourself, like, do you know what I mean? Like, whatever aspect, you know what I mean, whatever works for you, do you know what I mean? Like, whatever belief system makes you feel like not weird about that, do you know what I mean? Basically, I feel like, you know, for me personally, I do feel that there's a bit of a, like, we really can communicate with ourselves, you know, like, whether it's a soul to a person, whether it's a person to soul, like, it doesn't really matter who you're identifying as long as the seeking is earnest. I believe that's, you know, you're guaranteed results if that's the case, if that seeking is earnest. And I believe that I see the rise in earnest seeking taking place, and it's so beautiful to bear witness. Do you know what I mean? People like seeking truth, but not for the sake of knowing truth, like, above anyone else, blah blah blah. Nah, like, just genuine, like, I just want to, all I want to do is receive truth. I want to seek truth, I want to find truth, and I'm not gonna listen to any opinionated side-based logic. Do you know what I mean? Because that's not truth. That's still based in duality. That's based in polarity. Do you know what I mean? And we can recognize that its effect. It's not to say that it does not exist. It very much does exist, but it is to say that it's not a truest state of reality. Do you know what I mean? It still abides within illusion. And I think, it's an important distinction to be able to make when walking this plane, is that truth is truth, and absolute truth is always true, and illusion and truth both very much exist upon this plane, but truth is reality and illusion is illusion. You know what I mean? Like, it exists, but it's not real. It's not real, and it's really important, I've found along my path, to make this distinction and to, like, as best I can, embody this distinction that illusion is illusion, truth is truth. One cannot prove truth by illusion, because the amount of times my mind's recently is like, starts applying this, you know, evidence, you know what I mean, or whatever, and it's like, nah, come on, this is illusory based evidence. I need not waste my time. Like, it's like a deck of cards, you know what I mean, house of cards, like, trying to balance it all up, and it's like, nah, allow that. Like, everything holds its place within its designated context. So, like, allow it space and leave it there. Let it hold its space as an idea, as a methodology, you know what I mean? And stop trying to apply it to everything else, because life is, you know what I mean, just as much the rainbow in between as much as it is the light and the dark. Do you know what I mean? So I think it's important to remember that, especially with the way things are going, when it's up in the intensity, it's quite easy to force us into that light dark mentality. You know what I mean? When I tell you what, a massive thing that's sort of been like coming up again and again and again is this whole stop going light, dark, good, bad, because it's like, again, I feel like, so good and bad, I feel like it exists, as a feeling, as a navigator, as a, you know what I mean, if that makes sense, sort of thing, like, oh, this is good, I'm gonna follow this, or that's bad, I'm gonna, you know what I mean, I'm not following that. Like, it's useful that's for me, that's like its context, its use of context, you know what I mean, its designated context sort of thing is so we can help navigate life by good and bad, but it's important to remember that it's illusion. It doesn't actually abide within a reality, good and bad. Whereas I would say that light and dark, I would say that light and dark do exist within reality. It's the illusion, like, this is the thing with the illusion, is that, like, it exists but it's not real. And I think that is just, if I can put it into words, is like just a really important, because we're creators and we hold that infinite power to create within us. That's why it's so important to be able to distinguish the difference between illusion and reality, and honouring the fact that it's not the you know what I mean, all love and light. It's not to say that the darkness doesn't exist. It very much does exist. But what I truly believe, and it keeps coming up for me, is the darkness, it's nothing to do with bad, evil, blah blah blah. Literally, the darkness is that which is not yet understood. It is that which has not yet been illuminated, you know what I mean, by the light I am. And because it is the light that sparks all things, and I truly, this is just me, innit, that, like, I believe that we are light beings in totality, and that's where we started and that's where we end up, and we've chosen to descend into physical form, contracting this density, and it's only through where is it? It's only through this density that the shadow is formed, being my point to this. So so just remember that the light came first, you know what I mean, and as much as all things are balanced, like, upon this plane all things are balanced, but where we came from and that which is inherently home within us is pure absolute light, you know what I mean, abundance in totality, harmony beyond comprehension, you know, symbiotic heaven ever playing out through its majestic flow of that which is life, you know. So it's been really coming up again and again. So it's like, stop fearing the darkness, stop trying to banish the darkness. The darkness is literally that which is not yet understood, that which has not yet been illuminated. Do you know what I mean? So I think this is important for me. It's like, step into that darkness, because all it is the unknown. It's not evil. You don't need to fear it in any way. And it's the same, I've mentioned it before, but it's just like when you're a child, do you know what I mean? And first time you see a shadow, and it's like, whoa, like, what's that? Why are they following me? Do you know what I mean? But at the end of the day, you know what I mean, it's only a certain amount of time before you go, oh, hang on a sec, we're moving at the same time. Do you know, like, that's me, that's just my reflection. Do you know what I mean? And even like a reflection without definition. Do you know what I mean? Just the shape, and somehow that shape, without meaning being given to it, can allow the rising of fear within us, just because we don't have a definition for it. And ultimately, because it's just that's so mind. Do you know what I mean? If that makes sense, that's just so mind to go, wait, there's no definition to fear it. You know, so sometimes, like, I believe that light language, bringing through speaking languages which don't have mental definitions already set to them, I believe is a truly beautiful thing. I believe that's the sound of spirit talking. You can call it heart-based language. But yeah, the whole point being is that there isn't mental definitions to it, and I find it fascinating. For me, like, I had to sort of like humble my ego. It thought it was silly, it thought it was childish, blah 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 blah. And then I practiced it, and I was like, whoa, started feeling it. Do you know what I mean? I recognise this effect, sort of thing. So that's why I use light language, and you know what I mean. And I see it like that. I've come across other people, and I also throat sing as well, and, and I've noticed in certain times, some people, they see it as evil, they see it as dark, and do you know what I mean? Because they're using those two interchangeably. Do you know what I mean? When they're drastically different, if you see what I'm saying. It's and it also highlights how, anyway, in my opinion, it's like that they see it as evil because it's darkness. They don't. It's what they don't yet understand. Do you know what I mean? They literally. And they just don't understand it. And I know for some of them, they would be like, it's not that I don't understand this, it's that I actually understand this piece of information. And it all just comes down to opinions, I guess, at the end of the day. But for me, that's illusory based, and it's all about feeling into your heart, and it's obvious from there. It's obvious for us as individuals. I'll say it like that. But yeah, my point being is that we've just got to be our light, and I questioned it as well. I went through that inner discernment. I was like, am I channeling? You know what I mean? Am I channeling lower frequency energies and blah blah blah, and things like that? And and it, for whatever, it just came back to me of like, no. That's not how it resonates within my heart, if you know what I mean. And I've had those times where, for me, it's just feeling the energy, man. And like, you know, if I'm just being hateful towards somebody, that's a lower energy. Do you know? Like, it's quite tangible. It's quite tangible in that respect, if you see what I'm saying. Whereas, just like it's almost there is a darker aspect to it, but I just don't see it as evil in any way, sort of thing. Just I think a bit like how with like paganism, do you know what I mean, can get hate within the Christian community and things like that, you know, heathens and all of that, and it makes sense based on the context of it, do you know what I mean? Like, yeah, and I do think that, I don't know, for whatever it's worth, I always think it's important to remember that Jesus was basically pagan. If you look on Google, it says the definition for pagan is anything that's pre-Christian. So Christ was pre-Christian, so that always makes me laugh. That, and I also think that Jesus was a lot more pagan in terms of how he lived his life than most people these days would like to give credit. So, yeah. Anyway, I'll digress on that one, But yeah, so the importance of being able to step into this darkness without fear, holding that sword of light, do you know what I mean, and that shield of love, knowing that we're unbreakable, we're unshakable. And like, and in the sense, I feel like particularly that we can be broken, yeah, and we've been broken so many times that we've learned how to put ourselves back together. Do you know what I'm saying? So like, yeah, they can try their plans and that, but ultimately it's all just going to be catalyst, because now we're doing the inner work, now we're actually processing, now we're taking the time to release, purge, transmutate and integrate. You know what I mean? They don't stand a chance, but like equally I just say, like, thank you for them giving us this opportunity, this learning modality. It's one of those a bit like, well, if it's all meant to be, if it's all God's plan, then ultimately at the end of the day, thank you for playing that role, because I didn't want to play that role. You know what I mean? It almost feels a bit like spiritual. I'd rather be in the light. I'd rather claim to be a light warrior. Do you know what I mean? Than that side of it, sort of thing. So I've just got to like sort of honour the fact that they've chosen to play that role allows me to play my role. Do you know what I mean? This role, and ultimately, of course, this, in a funny sense, it's all one and the same role. Do you know what I mean? Because it's all for the sake of our ascension. You know what I mean? Collectively, as the we, as the I am. Do you know what I mean? And it's refreshing for me to remind myself of this information, because it's so easy, innit, to channel this higher information and then walking in a 3D plane just like forget about it. Do you know what I mean? Whereas, hang on a sec, when I was in that state receiving this transmission, this felt truer than anything else, like, you know what I mean, anything else that I've experienced, sort of thing. So hold true, and just because it's within doesn't mean that it's not without. Do you know what I mean? And I think that when we sort of acknowledge that and truly embody it, so it's not just a transmission, it's been integrated, it has been embodied, then we get to walk about upon this plane and start seeing its effect rippled out. Do you know what I mean? You know what I mean? We see the as without to the as within. You know what I mean? But yeah, blessed be, family, blessed be. And what a glorious day we've been blessed with today. It's like the first day, I swear, that the sun has come out. It feels like the first time in like a month or something like that. So yeah, I'm very grateful for it. I hope everyone's been soaking up those light codes, and yeah, just doing the necessary healing, taking the time to release, purge, transmutate and integrate. I feel like so useful, at least for me, and within my as live life for the moment, sort of thing. That's my medicine for the moment. Yeah. And yeah, that alongside the like just not fearing the darkness, learning to love that darkness, because any time I've went into darkness, that which is not yet understood, that which is not yet known, that which has not yet been illuminated. It always leads to light on the other side. And I had powerful meditation the other week, like really just deepening this and like just going into all of my fears, just all my traumas, all things that embarrassed, like that I just wish didn't happen. Do you know what I mean? Like all of those things, and just facing it, like staring it straight in the eye. Do you know what I mean? And I'll tell you what, there was even a little bit like of a devilish energy, like it felt like, you know, presenting me with these things. But like in a way, it's like it just doesn't matter. Like we can call it the devil if you want. Do you know what I mean? But like ultimately, that role of the devil is literally just showing us what is not true, so we may better discern that which is truth within ourselves. Do you know what I mean? So I think it's worth honouring that. But my point being, yeah, that it just, all these things that I wouldn't want to, you know, try and fear induce me, you know what I mean, and all these sort of things. So I could call it a devilish energy. Equally, I could call it an angel, because it's showing me what I am not. Do you know what I mean? It's only ever guiding me home quicker for that which it's showing me, if I choose to take responsibility and accept the fact that all things brought onto myself are brought through by myself. Do you know what I mean? So once we start lining up some of these beliefs, you know what I mean? Rapid acceleration. And not that it's about speed or anything like that, but it's just about being able to walk the path with minimal stagnation, blockages. Do you know what I mean? Like, yeah. It's like if you were going for a run. Now, it's not about the quickest time and anything like that, but yeah, you do want to, for it to be a good run, you don't want to be stopping and starting all the time. You don't want to be tripping over things, and you know what I mean? So like, I feel like that's a good sort of balance for it. It's nothing about winning, you know what I mean, or especially above anyone else or whatever, but it is about doing the best we can. Yeah, doing the best we can with the information, with the heart and soul that we've been blessed with. Do you know what I mean? Oh, and it does, it truly feels like that. It does truly feel like that. I feel that I can see how we're all going through it as well, and we're all going through it in different ways, and you know, people with different belief systems, like I can still see how they're going through it, and it's I find it fascinating, and it levels me, it humbles me, that like people that might not associate with certain truths that I might believe and that other people I hang around with might believe, but ultimately I see the soul inside them, do you know, shining and like expressing this like vulnerability, which I thought I held certain projections that that vulnerability wouldn't be there due to the like a self inner world, or I don't know, whatever, you know what I mean, like whatever distortion I want to call it, sort of thing. But ultimately, mate, we're all on the path. It's all a part of the path, and we're all walking that same path home. And I just find that so beautiful and so glorious, like when you see that recognized within people, you know what I mean, that that the inner work is taking place, and that they're in a state of deeper love and compassion for the people, for themselves and the people around them, because of that inner work. You know, when they're still living a different timeline, do you know what I mean? Like, I just find that so like awe-inspiring, and just like, don't take this 3D incarnation, do you know what I mean? Like, just don't take it seriously. You can take it sincerely, but we've got to be willing to check ourselves too. Do you know what I mean? Of when I'm getting a little bit, I mean, the phrase that's coming to me is overly righteous. I'm gonna flow with it. Of like, because it's when I say that I'm righteous and you're not, you know what I mean, or that I'm more righteous than you, and it's like, that ain't a part. Like, it is a part of the path, but I don't think that's a winning way. I don't think that's I just don't think it's not a deeper sense of truth. Do you know what I mean? I think ultimately, and I can understand, I guess, why we would feel the need to put ourselves above others. Do you know what I mean? In order to make all of it feel more believable, in order to feel justified within our viewpoints and things like that. And I think that's quite a big one. Whereas if we actually acknowledge the fact, they hold their opinion, I hold my opinion, no one's No one's better or worse, do you know what I mean? And then in a sense, no one's more right or wrong with a lot of it because it's intangible, you know what I mean? With some things, it's facts, figures, you know what I mean? I get that. But with a lot of it, I think it is quite intangible. And especially with it's all about the energy that we're bringing through that conversation with. Do you know what I mean? That is going to play so much more of a difference than the specific words that we're using. Like, it's all about the energy, innit? And it's all about intention. The intention casts the spell. So it's important to remind ourselves of this and just make sure we're coming at this as much as we can. Any communication from a heart-centered point of view. Do you know what I mean? And just holding that love in our hearts and holding that compassion for ourselves and for the family around us, because like there's a whole lot of chaos, there's a whole lot of mayhem, but there's also a whole lot of peace and there's a whole lot of love and a whole lot of beauty, do you know what I mean? That we have experienced and that we are yet to experience, like in even deeper senses, you know what I mean, than previously we knew was accessible. Do you know what I mean? Through doing this inner work and this discernment of self and realizing the true power, the true state I am. And what a glorious, like, magnificent realization, like true epiphany, you know what I mean? Love that, and love you, family, love you. I hope you're all staying true. Just keep shining that light, keep spreading that message. Remember that it's worth going within and making sure that we're just, think about it. If these change that you really want to see in the world, if we know that love is the most powerful energy, the most powerful force in existence, then use that with what we want. And if it doesn't, if there's things that you want that you feel that you can't come at that from a loving energy, is that really what you want? Is it coming from a pure place? Because I feel like ultimately we should be able to stand in our love, stand in our peace. And once we're there, it's all a lot easier, innit? Because there's no need for the fear, no need for the shame, no need for the guilt. Because I know that I'm here, I came here to get it wrong and to learn what is right. Do you know what I mean? And I don't need to go into cognitive dissonance and stagnate, like, you know, sort of disarm myself, do you know what I mean? That sort of thing, like, no, like, sit with it, work it out, process it, and then walk forth, heart forward, stronger and mightier for every darkness faced. Do you know what I mean? And truly just being that light within the darkest of places. Like, I know that's like a lot of us will be saying that, and that's what we came here to do. And I'm very much reminding myself just as much of, like, come on, like, do you know what I mean? Don't just say it when we're in the light. It's so easy to say it, you know what I mean? When man's blessed and all of that, but like actually, like, when in the darkness, do you know what I mean? Being like, reminding myself, no, I am the light, I am the light, I am the light. And, you know, sometimes those mantras, like, repetition, do you know what I mean, really can help, do you know what I mean, to just break the spell, dispel the illusion, do you know what I mean? Because once the illusion has been dispelled, that which is remains. The truth shall always be, for it is eternal. We are eternal. Alright, big love, family. Yeah, keep doing you. Stay true to your guidance, to your path, and hold compassion, for yourself and others, because I think that that's ultimately what's going to help us unlock that, you know, heaven upon earth, the gates, that which we came to reclaim, that which we came to atone. Kings and queens, take your seats upon your mighty thrones. Alright, love, family. Shinuza swaharimu shayeom balush.